want you to picture this. I am at a bowling alley. Let's say I'm being a weirdo and I'm just hanging out there by myself, just getting ready to bowl. And some kid, I don't know, some 10-year-old kid comes up to me and starts telling me, you suck at bowling. I'm way better than you. You're an idiot. He's just being a nasty, disrespectful little kid. And so I challenged this kid at bowling. Would I take it easy on him? No, he's not my kid. I don't like him at all. I would just utterly destroy him, make fun of him while he's rolling gutter balls and everything, just utterly destroy him. Why? Because I want him so demoralized that I never have to look at him again while I'm bowling. I'm going somewhere with this. Hang on for a second. But then, what if it was my kids? And what if my kids started talking that same mess to me as they might do? Dad, you suck. Dad, I'm way better than you at bowling. And I'm looking at my kid and I know I'm going to crush this kid at bowling. But I have a choice in that moment. He's never bowled before. I have a choice. I can make sure he learns his lesson gently, or I can destroy him and so demoralize him that I make sure he never wants to bowl again. Well, because I love him, because he's my kid, I'll put the little lane bumpers out there so he loses, but he's not rolling in the gutter every time feeling bad about himself. This stupid little story I just brought to you is exactly what's happening right now when it comes to Joe Biden. Well, the Biden versus Trump thing. Because I see a lot of people out there on the right. Why didn't they raid Trump? Why didn't they raid Biden like they raided Trump? Because you saw, of course, FBI found even more documents over the weekend. But they're clearly holding hands on the whole thing. Joe Biden's inviting the FBI. Their lawyers are working with the DOJ. We now know the DOJ worked with these people to keep it quiet until after the election. That alone should mean impeachment for Merrick Garland, by the way. That's like the biggest deal in the world. A Department of Justice colluding with the Biden administration to help Democrats win elections. But the right is tempted to do this. Well, they're not treating him like they treated Trump. Well, yeah. They wanted to embarrass and demoralize Donald Trump like I would want to do with the kid I don't know. With Joe Biden, they want to defeat him. Don't get me wrong. This is Democrats doing it to him. They want him gone. They want him to lose. They essentially want him to announce he's not running for 2024. That's really the end goal in this thing here. But they've got the lane bumpers out there for Joe. You see, we want him, we don't want him to run again. But we don't want all of us looking bad. So, hey, look, let's just work with the DOJ. Oh, no, he's working with us. He's cooperating. He's letting us know it's much different. This is good to go. But rest assured, everything that's happening right now with Joe Biden is a very big deal. You know it's a big deal. You even saw his chief of staff, Ron Klain, is peacing out. Why? Because Ron Klain understands this is the end of the road. And it's something, if you've been watching I'm Right, it's something you've been aware of for a long time. The people around Joe Biden were yanking him to the left, being radical the whole time because they always knew this was just going to be a stepping stone on the way to some lucrative media or think tank or academia job. This is Joe Biden getting shoved out, but with the lane bumpers up. We don't want to destroy everybody. Let's just make sure he loses. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing. We're going to ask Miranda Devine if I'm full of crap on that, and we're going to ask her right now. Joining me now, a great columnist with the New York Post and author of the book Laptop from Hell. She also has that great newsletter. I love the name, Divine Online. Highly recommend you sign up for that. Okay, Miranda, you have a column out. Quote, there's no hiding Biden's fright over classified document scandal. It's your column, not mine. The floor is yours.
Yeah, hi, Jesse. Look, you can tell that Joe Biden is panicking, and with good reason. The way he snapped at reporters in California last week when they deigned to ask a question, he's managed to keep himself pretty quarantined from the media. And he said he had no regrets, that there's no there, which is a pretty extraordinary thing for him to say, considering that, the DOJ just went to his house for another search on Friday and spent 13 hours and found what they said was 6 items of classified information. We already know that from sources that have told CNN and I think the New York Times that some of this material in that first tranche that was found at the University of Pennsylvania that was pertaining to Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and to Iran. And so I had a look in the laptop, and there's one curious email that really stands out from Hunter Biden to his business partner at the time, Devon Archer. And it's on April 13, 2014. And it's just around the time that they join the board of that Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, around the time that Devon Archer is photographed alongside Joe Biden in Joe Biden, the vice president's office. And that photograph was taken by Hunter Biden. And this was all happening around the same time. Now, this email that I found is very curious because unlike most of Hunter Biden's other emails in the entire 9 years of this laptop, it's very detailed. It's a very strategic document. It is very well informed. It's very lengthy. It consists of 22 bullet points. And among them is, information about Ukraine politics, about the upcoming election, the candidates, and also some pretty detailed, pretty informed geostrategic information about, for instance, Russia trying to, is going to escalate its destabilization of Ukraine, and its aim is to get a land bridge to Crimea. I mean, these are all things that, if you're familiar with Hunter Biden's writings in the other 9 years, are just so uncharacteristic that you can only surmise that he's had a strategic briefing or he's had access to a strategic briefing. This email was a week before his father, Joe Biden, was flying to Ukraine, having been appointed by President Obama as point man for Ukraine, and he was going there to meet the then Prime Minister before the elections. And so I just surmise that perhaps this was Hunter having accessed or having been told about a classified briefing. The information there is too detailed, too prescient to just be randomly off the street, on the media, open source knowledge.
Oh gosh, so we have Hunter Biden there with access to these things. Okay, Miranda, I have a theory. Just gonna throw it by you. I think that this is Joe Biden's managed exit. This is his managed decline. I think he is in very real trouble here. But we keep talking about these documents being discovered. It's not Republican operatives low crawling into his garage. It's his own people, his own lawyers. I think this is Democrats taking out Joe as politely as humanly possible. That's why they're working with the DOJ. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. And that really lets Joe Biden off the hook slightly, and the Democrats. If they wanted to get rid of him, they could find all sorts of medical reasons that are obvious every day to do it. So I don't think that's the case. And I think Andy McCarthy, the former prosecutor, wrote a very interesting column yesterday in which he's revealed that what initially happened was that when Joe Biden's lawyers went searching for whatever reason, but presumably think that they were looking for any evidence that they might want to remove or at least be familiar with before the Republicans gear up their investigation. So they went looking for that material and found some classified documents. And then what Andy McCarthy says is that they didn't tell the DOJ. They told the National Archives, assuming that the National Archives would just accept the documents back and refile them and not tell anyone. And unfortunately for Joe Biden, the Inspector General of NARA, the National Archives, he caught wind of it or was informed about it, and he then informed, as he should, the DOJ. That's why the DOJ became involved. And remember that that first tranche of documents at University of Pennsylvania were discovered, well, we're told, on November 2. Who knows if it was really that date, if it was earlier, but anyway, it was last fall. And this was a week before the midterm elections. So it was kept quiet for that reason, because it would have been very damaging to the Democrats before the election, because it just showed what hypocrites they are and Joe Biden is, particularly when he points the finger at Donald Trump about his classified documents, when it seems that Joe Biden, who was, he's taken documents when he was a senator and when he was vice president. Unlike President Trump, he didn't have that power to declassify material. And as Ted Cruz has said, as many Democrat senators, including Joe Manchin, said on the weekend, how on earth does a senator get to take classified documents home? And some of these are, top secret classified, the very top level of classification. And as it's been explained to me by a former prosecutor, in order to read those documents, you have to go into what's called a SCIF, a secure classified sort of module. And there's a guard outside the door, there's a guard inside, they open the computer for you, they show you the information, you get to read it, but you can't take notes. If you take notes, those notes become classified as well. You cannot take anything out, you cannot photograph them or use your phone. It's incredibly seriously, taken incredibly seriously. So the idea that Joe Biden as a senator had managed to squirrel away some of these classified documents is just insane. And then you just have to ask, considering that he had them at his home, in his garage next to his Corvette, and in another room, you have to ask, considering that Hunter Biden, during that period when he was, 2013 to 2016, the documents in that first tranche were said to be from. That was the period when Hunter Biden and his uncle, Joe's brother, Jim Biden, were at the peak of their influence peddling operations overseas. And that information, that classified information, would have been extremely useful, would have raised the value of what they were selling, the product they were selling, which of course was access to Joe Biden and his power and prestige as vice president and previously as senator.
Bread and circuses. Ever heard that little line before? Bread and circuses. Where'd that come from? Who came up with that? What is all this? Is that just a line in Gladiator? I think it was in Gladiator. But well, here's where the line bread and circuses came from. You see, rulers throughout the history of mankind have all understood something. They inherently understand something. And when I say rulers, this applies to whatever you want to call people. Call them prime ministers, call them kings, call them dictators, call them whatever you want to call it. The people in charge, the people who run a society, have always understood something. It's just something you get. They have always understood on some level, they still get to rule with the consent of the governed. And here's what I mean. Like in America, we have a representative republic. So our leaders understand they have to lie to you once every 2 to 4 years to try to get reelected about something. They do have to convince enough people to vote for them, and then they can't get too unpopular, right? They get that. A king, let's say a Roman emperor, even he understood you can't have too high of a percentage of the population mad at you. You can make a bunch mad. You can make them murderously mad. If that number creeps up too high, people are likely to rebel, likely to revolt. You might lose power. That's where they came up with all that bread and circuses stuff. Make sure you're tossing the people some bread. Put on the gladiator games, something, or chariot races. Give the people something to kind of placate them. Look, okay, they're mad. They know I'm a corrupt piece of trash. But we can make that anger a little less. Keep me in power. Bread and circuses. You're experiencing the same thing right now in this country. And this is what you're experiencing. We are a late-stage republic, as I've explained. You don't need to feel bad about that, as I've explained that too. We have had an incredible run as a nation. It's been wonderful. And we're not almost done, but as a nation that peaked, that's behind us. We definitely peaked. We're a late-stage republic now. We got too rich, too fat, too bored, too lazy. Didn't stay connected enough to our founding, and now here's what's happening. We have a corrupt bunch of people who run this country, from private sector to the administrative state to the elected politicians. And then none of them have any love of the place, so they're just in it all now to loot it. That's all. They all just want to get rich off your back. They want to loot the treasury, get rich, and relax the rest of their lives. There's no thought to America. They don't care about America. Most of them hate the friggin' place, but that's really all they're doing. And they're enjoying it. But they do understand something. It's just, again, rulers instinctively understand this. You can't get too mad, or then they're in trouble. You see, the Department of Justice, the FBI, whatever you want to call it, America's law enforcement apparatus, I would argue the past 6 years have probably done more damage to America's federal law enforcement arms, DOJ, FBI, all that stuff, than at any point throughout the history of the country combined. The last 6 years, if there was a graph or something like that, and let's say support was flat for the DOJ, FBI, whatnot, and you were to ask the average citizen, hey, what do you think about the FBI? But 9 out of 10 would be like, oh yeah, the G-men, boys in blue. And then about 6 years ago, it started to go down and down and down and down and down. That's what's happening right now in the country. And the system, they understand those numbers. You see, they're always polling everything too. They understand very well that your trust level in the justice system of the nation is going this way. Again, I don't care if you're one of the communists who hate watches the show or you're someone who agrees with me. Your opinion on what I just said doesn't matter. What I just said is a fact. Trust in the justice system is going down, and it's going down fast. And here's another fact to go along with that. That will end the nation if that continues. You cannot, your nation won't continue to exist for an extended period of time if a high enough percentage of the population feels that there's no justice to be had. The people will simply revolt, civil war, whatever. Pick your end, but there will be an end. The nation won't continue, it cannot continue if that trust continues to go down. So, let's say you're one of the people in charge. What do you do about that? Let's say you're Merrick Garland. What do you do about the fact that you're the top law enforcement officer in the country, as Attorney General, that's what he is. You know that you are just a lackey for other elites, but you also understand that this can't continue. This has got to stop. Something has to be done to at least stop the descent. Hey, at least let's flatten it out, right? We got to stop the descent. So what do? Well, a lot of people have this misconception, to take a little sidestep here, a lot of people have this misconception that in the communist Soviet Union, that there was only one party. There was only the communists. You had to be part of the Communist Party or you couldn't be in it. You know, that's actually not true. Did you know that there was an opposition party? There was. It was created by Stalin and the communists. Because Stalin and the communists understood this concept very well. You better give the people the illusion of choice. You better give the people, in the case of our Justice Department, the illusion of justice. If they're getting too disenfranchised, too angry, that anger level is getting just too hot, you would better find a way to toss them some bread and put on some circuses, or you might find yourself in quite a pickle. Our rulers understand this the same way all corrupt rulers have understood this, which is why you're seeing what you're seeing now. The Trump raid. Trump raid was bad. Bad for the nation. Completely unjustified, but went ahead and ratcheted that anger level up even more. People watched 30 FBI agents storm into Mar-a-Lago. They really, okay, are you going to find dead bodies there? And then remember that they were initially selling us that it was nuclear codes, and then that turned out to not be true, so they're just putting out weird pictures online. Then as well, you had classified documents, and everyone kind of looked around and said, wait, you sent 30 FBI agents to his home for classified documents? What? Hold on, you kicked out his lawyer? So that took the anger level up too high. But the system realized it had an opportunity. You see, the system has wanted rid of Joe Biden for a very, very, very long time. Joe Biden, at least for a year and a half, has driven the popularity of the Democratic Party down to dangerous levels. They don't concern themselves with popularity too much until it gets to dangerous levels. Joe Biden is such an old fool and a bitter jerk and just generally an unlikable idiot that he's going to hurt you if he's the face of the party. And then you have the midterms. They would, okay, so now you're barely alive, but so is Joe Biden. He's barely alive. And now you need a fresh face for 2024. Okay, so what this provided, the DOJ, was the perfect opportunity. You see, they could toss the masses some bread, give them a circus. At the same time, they can get rid of Joe Biden. You see, Merrick Garland, he gets to get up there now and give this speech. Oh, the DOJ is not political.
We do not have different rules for Democrats or Republicans, different rules for the powerful or the powerless, different rules for the rich or for the poor. We apply the facts and the law in each case in a neutral, nonpartisan manner.
Well, that's, of course, a lie, of course. Merrick Garland's DOJ has spent the last 2 years attacking every single Republican group, attacking basically only Republicans for the last 2 years. You see this guy, Richard Barnett, retired firefighter, the guy that was pictured putting his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. He just got he's facing 20 years in prison. 20 years in prison for that dumb stunt. Don't tell me there's no bias. Of course there's bias. Everyone can see it. That idiot got 20 years for putting his feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. In the meantime, communist street activists are outside of our Supreme Court justice homes breaking the law every single day. Here they are in front of Kavanaugh's house.
Cut his time short. A rapist should not rule the court. Cut his time short. A rapist should not rule the court. Cut his time short. A rapist should not rule the court.
Gosh, that's brutal. Anyway, so what you're seeing now with this whole Pence has documents too, Trump has documents, Biden has documents, Pence has documents, all you're seeing now is the system giving you some bread and circuses, trying to calm that anger down a little bit. That's why all the swamp rats are already out there conflating the two now. Okay, Trump had him, Biden had him. Let's all just be bipartisan and let it go. Here's the guy Trump just campaigned with in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham.
What are your national security questions?
Same thing for Trump. I mean, why did you do it? What were in the documents? How were they held? Who had access to them? Let me just say this. I've known President Biden for a long time. I don't think I would be shocked if there's anything sinister here.
Of course. The swamp. Lindsey Graham is the swamp. Oh, no, I've known him for a long time. These people.
What does it need to master the future? I think to have a platform where all stakeholders of global society are engaged.
What does that mean? What do these words mean? Joining me now, my friend, the great Lee Smith, author of the book, The Permanent Coup. Lee, let's actually begin right there. For so many people who are just getting into this stuff and they're waking up to this evil thing going on around them and they don't really understand what it is, they can't put it into words. Would you please describe what exactly these people are talking about when they always talk about mastering the future and stakeholders? What's a stakeholder?
Jesse, I got to tell you, whenever I see Klaus Schwab, it always occurs to me that he'd be more understandable if he was a maitre d' at an upscale, Nazi-themed fondue restaurant, because that's how seriously I think people should be taking Klaus Schwab. These are lunatics, and I think it's important to understand what the World Economic Forum is really about. And I think it's basically an upscale think tank that is collecting money. The real problem I think that we have as Americans is the people who are now in charge of our federal government.
Can you make that connection? Because that was actually going to be the next thing I asked you. World Economic Forum. Okay, we hear about these meetings in Switzerland and World Economic Forum and stakeholders, but then we talk about our own corrupt system and our own late stage republic. And what's the connection there? What's our people's connection with these people?
I think actually, frankly, at this point, I think the World Economic Forum has become something like a cover for a U.S.-China consortium. right? I mean, a lot of this stuff, the World Economic Forum, I mean, their center of power is in Europe. It's been going on for more than half a century now. Klaus Schwab founded it. He's in charge of it. But remember, he's also a protege of Henry Kissinger. The way that I see the World Economic Forum is that the real power behind it, and if you look at the money that goes to the World Economic Forum, a lot of this money is American money, right? I think that what they're doing is, I think our own global elites here in the United States are using the World Economic Forum in some ways to legitimize their own program here in the United States and their ambitions abroad. Look, I think it's absolutely correct that you and I, we look at the United States and we say it's crazy. The United States isn't crazy. Our leaders are crazy. Everything they're doing, whether it's from a woke military to open borders, it's absolutely nuts. But the globalists still perceive and understand the United States to be a powerful empire with lots of resources and lots of money. So I think that's what the World Economic Forum actually is. It's an instrument for our global elites to project power, certainly in Europe, and again to be able to make certain connections with the Chinese that would be untenable if it were happening. Under other circumstances.
What connections with the Chinese? To what end? Why do we want connections with the Chinese?
Because because the United States, well, first of all, the big thing is the corporate and political elites see China as an enormous asset. I mean, this is the source of their wealth, their power, and their prestige, and this has been going on for decades. So the relationship with China is their center of gravity, right? If you look at Wall Street, if you look at Hollywood, if you look at the university system, if you look at big tech, these things do not have the power and certainly not the money without without offshoring a whole bunch of resources to China, without a large Chinese market. That's how Hollywood perceives it. So China is extremely important for our elite. And that's why I say when people are looking, when a Republican-led Congress is looking to target China, looking to push back hard on China, I think that's great. However, the big problem is there is an enormous wall between pro-America Americans and the Chinese Communist Party, and that's American elites. That's our fundamental problem. While China is our strategic threat, our main strategic threat, the fact is they are partnered with key members of the American establishment.
The system. Because everyone at this point in time knows what the deep state is, right? Deep state this and deep state that, and people have their own version of the deep state. But I have always maintained, and I still do to this day, the deep state, calling it a deep state, not that it's bad, you're underselling exactly what it means. Because when you think about something like the deep state, here's what you think about. This is human nature. You think about state employees. And don't get me wrong, it's a big problem, but you think about the IRS, FBI, DOJ, CIA, NSA, all these state groups, these government groups working together against you and against elected officials you like. And that's what comes to mind when you think about deep state, the swamp, Washington, D.C., right? But the truth is, it's so much bigger and more nefarious than that. If it was only the deep state, it would be a problem, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. The problem is it's much more than a deep state. The problem is it's a system. That's why I call it the system. You can think of it as, well, the thing that really controls everything in our culture now. Now, what is it? Who are these people? Name names. Give me some details. I'm going to give you an example of it in just a second. Just to set it up, I want to make sure that I re-emphasize this. Equality is a lie. It's something that has been used to usher in equity and communism in this country. But this is something, and this is going to come into play in a moment, equality. We're all equal. No, we're not. None of us are equal. That's a lie. Oh, soul's equal in the eyes of God, maybe, but you're not equal to me. I'm not equal to you. We're made different different flaws, different skills, made for different purposes. I'm not equal to the guy on the sidewalk. You're not equal to this. Equality is something that doesn't exist. And here's something else that's true, and people find this hard to accept because we all like to imagine ourselves as being important, right? I'm no different. I want to be important. I have a TV show. I have a radio show. I'm important. Not really. Not really. We have different levels of importance when it comes to the direction of society. We're not all equal. That's ridiculous. If you are a teacher, maybe you're a school teacher. We have a bunch of teachers. Believe it or not, there are a bunch of anti-communist teachers out there. We have a bunch of teachers that listen to the show. You have an important job, of course. Guiding young minds, it's a very important job. You're going to have some influence as a teacher in what the future of the country looks like. Are you Lord High Commander? Of course not. But every year, 20, 30 kids come into your classroom and they're given guidance by you for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. They're younger, even longer. Okay, so you have a level of importance. Let's call it here. Well, if you're in construction, that's how I grew up. Construction guy, I'm a construction guy. My dad was, his dad was. And that's a great job. Great living, good hard work, keep you alive longer, good exercise. I'm glad you're doing it. We need construction guys, but you're not where the teacher is as far as importance goes, as far as influencing the culture. Now, what you do matters. Matters for you, your family, your paycheck. It matters to build the world around us, but as far as influences the society goes, the teacher is above you. Different people have different levels of influence. So let's talk about what the system is. The system is this. Cultures, all of them, whether it be a nation, America, a big nation, 300 million people, or whether it's a tiny tribe of 100 people out in the Australian outback, cultures have pillars on which the culture itself rests. The most important things. What's most important in a society? Is your local book club important to society? Not really. Is the religion of the society? Yes, very. That's one of your cultural pillars, religion. Media, how information is shared about things. Education, hugely important pillar. Business, the business part of your society, hugely important. The government, huge. These are the big pillars that hold up every society, the most important things. Everything isn't equal. The problem we have in America, the problem we have in the system is our most important pillars have all been taken over and governed now by the same cultural Marxist ideology. They all now, instead of serving as a check on each other, now they're all working together at all times, and they're always working against you. You see, the deep state is simply one of those pillars. Very, very important, don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if the other pillars were keeping it in check, but they're not. You see, the deep state, they work right with the media. They work right with social media now. They work right with various other pillars always against you. You want an example? Here's a great example. The George Floyd thing. This is maybe the best example. Now, what happened? Go ahead and recap this. This is an important part, not because of the case itself, not because St. George Floyd matters or the cops matter or anything else. This is a great example of the kind of culture you have now and the damage that can be done with a corrupted system. You woke up one day and there was this terrible video floating around the internet. And then it got from the internet to the news. What was on the video? What was on the video was there was this cop, white cop, with what looked like his knee on the back of the neck of some sweaty, shirtless black dude on the pavement. The black dude was kind of crying out. He didn't look well. He didn't sound well. And you're looking at this video. The cops are standing around. The knee looks like it's on the neck. Oh my gosh. And then the guy dies. And right away, you're watching. And you know, as a human being, it doesn't look good, doesn't sound good. Doesn't really matter where you fall in the whole thing. It was kind of ugly. No one wants to watch somebody sit there and die and sweaty. It was terrible. But that didn't mean we needed massive policy changes across the country. It didn't mean corporations had to realign themselves. The government had to realign itself. Okay, it was one internet video. Let's figure out what's wrong. Okay, where was this? Minneapolis? Okay, well, hopefully Minneapolis, investigates. If there's someone did something wrong, hopefully but that's not what happened, did it? What happened was the system all those cultural pillars realized that they had been presented with an opportunity. They had been presented with an opportunity to crush more of your freedoms, to attack more of what you value, to push what they want forward. And so they use this internet video to shape our entire culture for 6 months to a year. You still see little remnants of it out there. Do you remember DJs dropping beats on rooftops to George Floyd, the drug dealer?
So this record is in honor of George Floyd. And I really hope we can see more unity and more peace when already things are so difficult. So, shout out to his family.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
Okay, that's what? And all of a sudden, George Floyd's statues, many are still standing, all of them actually are still standing, begin popping up across the country. There were George Floyd funeral services, multiple funeral services across the country. We had not just Democrats, Republican senators like Tim Scott deciding, because of one internet video in Minneapolis, that the cops were the problem in the urban black community, which is ridiculous. And you can hate cops all you want. I don't care what you feel. I don't do universal back to blue. I don't do universal cops are evil. Everyone who does that kind of stuff is stupid. Each incident is on his own. But all of a sudden, it was just the thing to do on the left and the right. The cops suck. The cops are the problem. The cops are ruining the black community. We had politicians and the media, those important pillars out there, in the wake of one internet video calling for the defunding of police.
In Oakland tonight, defunding the police has become a reality.
The LA City Council has taken its first step in defunding the LAPD. Today, the council voted to cut the budget by $150 million.
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes.
I do believe that we need to reallocate resources away.
So yes, defund your butts.
The city council passed the New York City budget, which includes redistributing $1 billion from the NYPD budget.
Yes, I support the reallocation of resources from NYPD.
We have to reimagine public safety.
Not only do we need to disinvest in police, but we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
What? You still wrap your mind around how crazy that was? George Floyd, what happened with St. George Floyd, it was a system in action.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.